Hey guys, what's up? We are back with Matthew chapter 14. Sorry if I sound a little bit weak. I'm feeling very weak. I'm really sick. But I spent the whole day in bed and I really just wanted to do something that felt, valuable. So I really wanted to make a video. So I'm gonna read through Matthew chapter 14 and then I'm just gonna share some thoughts. So nothing else except to start. Okay, cool. At that time, Herod the Tetrarch heard the news about Jesus and said to his servants, "This is John the Baptist. He himself has been raised from the dead, and that is why miraculous powers are at work in him." For when Herod had John arrested, he bound him and put him in prison because of Herodias, the wife of his brother Philip. For John had been saying to him, "It is not lawful for you to have her." Although Herod wanted to put him to death, he feared the crowd because they regarded John as a prophet. But when Herod's birthday came, the daughter of Herodias danced before him and pleased Herod, so much that he promised with an oath to give her whatever she asked. And after being prompted by her mother, she said, "Give me the head of John the Baptist here on a platter." And although he was grieved, the king commanded it to be given because of his oaths and his dinner guests. And he sent word and had John beheaded in the prison. And his head was brought on a platter and given to the girl, and she brought it to her mother. John's disciples came and took away the body and buried it. And they went and reported to Jesus. Now when Jesus heard about John, he withdrew from there in a boat to a secluded place by himself. And when the people heard about this, they followed him on foot from the cities. When he came ashore, he saw a large crowd and felt compassion for them and healed their sick. Now when it was evening, the disciples came to him and said, "This place is secluded and the hour is already past to eat. Send the crowds away so that they may go into the villages and buy food for themselves." But Jesus said to them, "They do not need to go. You give them something to eat." They said to him, "We have nothing here except 5 loaves and 2 fish. Oh, my air purifier, I'm sorry. Usually I turn it off when I start making video. I just forgot. Okay, anyway. We have nothing here except 5 loaves and 2 fish. And he said, "Bring them here to me." And ordering the crowds to sit down on the grass, he took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish and looked up toward heaven. He blessed the food, and breaking the loaves, he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the crowds. And they all ate and were satisfied. And they picked up what was left over of the broken pieces, 12 full baskets. There were about 5,000 men who ate, besides women and children. That is a lot of people. Immediately afterward, he compelled the disciples to get into the boat and to go ahead of him to the other side, while he sent the crowds away. After he had sent the crowds away, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. And when it was evening, he was there alone. But the boat was already a long distance from the land, battered by the waves, for the wind was contrary. And in the 4th watch of the night, he came to them, walking on the sea. When the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified and said, "It is a ghost." And they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Take courage, it is I. Do not be afraid." Peter responded and said to him, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." And he said, "Come." And Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came toward Jesus. But seeing the wind, he became frightened. And when he began to sink, he cried out, saying, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and took hold of him and said to him, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" When they got into the boat, the wind stopped, and those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, "You are truly God's Son." When they had crossed over, they came to land at Gennesaret. And when the men of that place recognized him, they sent word into all that surrounding region and brought to him all who were sick. And they pleaded with him that they might just touch the border of his cloak, and all who touched it were cured. Wow. That's not a very long chapter, but I have some thoughts. I think the first thing that I just realized it now while reading, but I made a note about it, but realizing that Jesus, a lot of his miracles happened, I think, in this way. But apart from his miracles, Jesus was really willing to be inconvenienced by people. His love for people made him so willing to be really inconvenienced at times when it's really maybe not, it doesn't feel like the right time to do something. But like when John the Baptist got beheaded, like that was intense news for Jesus, I believe. And he withdrew from there in a boat to a secluded place by himself, right? When he heard about the news about John. But when people heard about it, they followed him on foot from the cities. When he came ashore, he saw a large crowd and felt compassion for them and healed their sick. Jesus is probably grieving, and in that moment of grief, people come and they need him, but in a way they come inconveniently in a time where he is distressed, and he maybe needs some time where he just wants to go and pray and speak with the Father. But he's willing to be inconvenienced, right? Like the story of what's the name of the guy that cried out, "Son of David, have mercy on me"? Bartimaeus. Okay, it's like the story of Bartimaeus, right? Everyone's passing by this guy sitting next to the road, and everyone is on their way to go do something, right? And more than just that story, Jesus, so many times he was on his way to go do something, and someone comes from the side as an inconvenience, yet Jesus is willing to be inconvenienced because of his love, and he turns and he heals people and he helps them, right? All the other people were like irritated that Bartimaeus was like yelling at Jesus, like, "No, bro, be quiet, we're on our way to go do something." But Jesus's love is so much that he's willing to be inconvenienced constantly for the sake of the people that he came to save and to love. Yeah, so good. And he is still like that, right? So I also thought about the fact that I read this thing the other day that Jesus even stayed relational in the midst of intense distress. When he was on the cross, he was being relational. He was acting normal, right? Imagine you're going through so much distress, like you would probably be like freaking out. But what does he do? He takes care of his mother. He makes sure she's gonna be fine with John. He redeems the guy next to him. So he's even ministering to someone in the midst of his distress. And he forgives the people who is causing the distress to him. Like, Jesus is a boss. He is just like so full of love, and he is so deep in his character that he would be able to do all of that in the midst of heavy distress, right? Man, I feel like I'm really babbling, but I'm just trying to like articulate what's in my head. But it's so cool. Like, the other day I just realized that I really want to be like him. He is so amazing, and I just realized so much how much more I need to love to be like him, how much more I need to be willing to be inconvenienced to be like him. And not in a condemnation way where I'm like, oh, I need to be better, and I like hit myself on the back with a whip, figuratively, but in the way of like, you're just standing in awe of how good he is, like how much love he has, how much grace he has, how much he cares. It was just in this way of like, man, like, Lord, I want to be like you, but you're so amazing. And yeah, I was really thinking about that the other day. Anyway, yeah, I think that's pretty much what I wanted to share. And then just also about Peter stepping out on the water. Obviously, just such an incredible story. Like, this actually happened. And we need to be willing to step into the unknown to see amazing things a lot of times, right? But it's scary. It is definitely scary to do stuff that doesn't naturally seem wise. It doesn't naturally seem like it makes sense. But if God says come, right? Jesus told him come, then we can trust him. We don't have to let fear determine whether we do something or not. We can let God determine who he is and his character and his nature, and the fact that we know that he will never leave us nor forsake us. Okay, yeah, that was all that I wanted to share. Bless you guys. Thank you for watching. And yeah, peace.